On my birthday, I got a message from my son. It said, "We're busy with Emma's family. Let's celebrate yours next year." That was it. No call, no visit, just those words on a screen. People sometimes ask me, how could a mother just leave the home she built with her whole heart? The truth is, I didn't walk away. I just couldn't stay. Not in a place where I started to feel like I didn't belong, like I was in the way. Before we start, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this story with your friends and family. And don't forget to tell us the life lesson you learned before it's too late. My name is Evelyn. I'm 72 years old, a widow, and I live in a small, quiet town by the coast in Maine. I used to live with my son Derek, his wife Elise, and my granddaughter Emma. For years, I made dinners that no one ate, baked cakes that sat untouched in the fridge, and tried to teach Emma simple things like being honest and kind. But I was told that I was too old-fashioned, out of touch. Elise wanted Emma to stand out, win scholarships, make a name for herself. I just wanted her to grow up kind and true to who she is. But in that house, it often felt like my voice didn't matter. Like my words were nothing compared to the sound of a door quietly closing. If you've ever felt like you were slowly fading in your own family, you're not alone. Leave a comment below. Maybe like me, you've sat in silence, wondering when you stopped being seen. This isn't just a story about a mother quietly leaving the home she once held together with everything she had. It's deeper than that. It's about what pushed her to disappear on Christmas, of all days, and how that one choice changed everything. The story I'm about to share is true. It's the journey of how I stepped away from the house they called home to finally come back to myself. And it all started on what should have been just another birthday. That morning, I had baked an apple pie. The smell filled the kitchen, sweet, warm, full of cinnamon. The crust cracked a little around the edges, but it was just right. I'd set the red linen on the table, the one I'd ironed that morning. A few sprigs of juniper in a glass jar, soft yellow light from above, and red bricks under the old wooden floor. I had pictured a quiet dinner, nothing fancy, just a few smiles, a few kind words, but all of that hope disappeared with one short message. Rain check for next year. I didn't reply, didn't delete it either. I just stared at the phone, waiting, maybe for a second message, a bit of warmth, a reason. But nothing came, just silence. So I folded the cloth carefully and tucked it away in the drawer, wrapped the pie in wax paper, and slid it into the fridge. The house was still. Derek and Elise had left earlier that day. They said they were dropping by Emma's friend's place and then heading to Elise's parents'. Just busy tonight, they said. Emma had texted too. "Sorry, Grandma. I'll make it up to you." She added a little sad face emoji. I didn't blame her. She's 17, stuck between a quiet grandma and a mother who likes control. At least she tried. That meant something. I put on my coat slowly, each movement calm and careful, like my body needed time to understand there was nothing left to wait for. Outside, the wind whispered against the door. I pulled up my collar and stepped out into the cold. Snow lightly dusted the town like powdered sugar on rooftops. People were already putting up Christmas lights, tiny red and gold bulbs glowing in windows. Pine trees, still wrapped in netting, leaned outside shops. No one laughed loudly, but there was a kind of warmth in the air, the kind that comes from knowing someone's waiting for you at home. I wasn't going far, just to the little cafe by the library. Claire owns it. We were in English class together back in school. She always remembers my birthday. Every year she gives me a free decaf, coffee, and a quiet, "Happy birthday, Ev." She didn't ask why I was alone, just poured the coffee and added a slice of her homemade pecan loaf. I gave her a small nod and sat by the window. Outside, I saw a little boy hopping over a puddle, holding a donut. His cheeks were covered in sugar. His grandma called out, "Don't go too far." Her voice was full of love and a little worry. I smiled softly and sipped my coffee. My hands are stiffer now, my eyes not what they used to be, but that warm, slightly bitter taste brought back memories. I used to bring Emma here when she was little. We always sat at this very table. She loved the cinnamon rolls and would ask for extra syrup every time. Later, Elise put a stop to it, said sweets were bad and that this cafe wasn't the place for children, so I stopped taking her. I didn't argue, I just stopped. I got home just before 6. The sky was already turning gray, and a soft strip of evening light stretched across the kitchen table through the window. I didn't bother turning on the light. My shadow landed on the wall, quiet, still, older now. The sweet smell of cinnamon was fading. I opened the fridge and took out the pie. I placed it gently on the table and just looked at it for a while. Not because I was hungry, but because it gave me something to focus on. Something real. So I didn't have to look at myself. I reached for a plastic cake box and opened the lid. For a moment, I thought about writing Emma's name on a note and leaving it beside the pie. But then my hand stopped. It was trembling, not from age, but from doubt. I wasn't sure the pie would ever be eaten. So I put it back. I went upstairs to the attic. That's where I keep all the old things, my wedding pictures, hand-knit. Sweaters, a few dusty boxes filled with birthday cards Emma made when she was little. I pulled up a wooden chair and sat down, surrounded by silence and cold air. The wind slipped in through cracks in the window, gently moving the lace curtain. There was one photo I always stop at, me and Emma on her 6th birthday. Her hair was in pigtails, and she was holding a tiny cake with a number 6 candle. I stood beside her, smiling wide. My eyes were glowing, not from the candle, but from hope, from love. I didn't cry. I just stared at that photo, then at the woman I am now. And quietly, I wondered, do I still belong in that house? It was a small question, soft and invisible to anyone else. But to me it stung, like a scratch on a mirror you see every time you look. I went back downstairs and set the kettle to boil, made myself a cup of peppermint tea. The kitchen was clean, as always, everything in its place, but no one noticed. No one ever asked who wiped the counters, who folded the napkins, who kept the home running. I never kept score. I'm not the type to brag or complain. But after a while, I started to realize something. When you stay quiet too long, people begin to act like you're not even there, like you're optional. The pie was still sitting in the fridge still humming, but no one mentioned it. And for the first time, I found myself thinking, if I disappeared, would anyone even notice? Elise never yelled at me. She didn't have to. She just closed doors. That was enough. Every time I tried to talk to Emma, the doors stayed shut. The house, once so full of life, felt quieter now. The hallway didn't echo with Emma's footsteps anymore. I still made tea for 2. Out of habit, I poured 2 cups, but the second cup always stayed full. This morning, I found a note Elise left on the table. Emma needs her own space, please. Understand. That was it, written in neat black ink. No birthday message, no warmth, just words, like a receipt, emotionless, final. Still, I wiped the counters. Still folded the red napkin with lace edges, the same one Emma used on her 6th birthday when she smeared frosting on my face and laughed so hard the whole house echoed with joy. Now, the table is clean, but the chair across from me is empty. One time, I walked into Emma's room to ask if she wanted baked ziti for dinner. Elise was already there. She stood up and gently, wordlessly, closed the door. Not rude, not loud, but clear. I wasn't welcome. I tried so hard to believe I was still part of that home, even just a small part, a shadow by the stove, a pair of hands folding laundry. But Elise, she didn't push me out. She just cleared the space around me, slowly, carefully. And Derek? He stayed quiet, gave me a pat on the shoulder now and then, like that was enough. like that was love. That afternoon, I was putting away laundry when I saw an envelope tucked between Emma's notebooks. My curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. It was a letter she'd written to a creative writing camp in New Hampshire. She wrote, "I'm not good at piano. I want to write scripts. I haven't told my mom. My grandma says, 'Do what?' You love." I sat down on her bed, holding the letter. The stamp hadn't been used yet, and the envelope was hidden. She hadn't sent it. Not yet. That night, I didn't cook. Elise had guests from work. They brought out white wine, seafood, cheese, and salad. The smell of grilled oysters floated up the stairs. It clung to the curtains and tablecloth I had laid out just days earlier without a single guest of my own. I had just washed up, stayed in my room. No one called for me. I heard Emma excuse herself and go upstairs. A chair moved softly, a door clicked shut. Then, silence. I sat there with her letter in my lap, picked up a pen and wrote a few lines. To her, my granddaughter. "I once dreamed of becoming a nurse," I began. "But your grandfather said, 'We don't need another caretaker, just take care of the kids.' I didn't blame him. That's how things were. But even now, I sometimes wonder, if I hadn't let go of that dream, would life have been different? Emma, if you still want to write, then write." I wasn't sure I'd give it to her. I slipped the note into a plain white envelope. No name on it, nothing fancy, just the truth. The next morning, I tucked it under her breakfast tray like an extra napkin, quiet and hidden. But Elise came downstairs first. She cleared the tray, poured the orange juice. No one said anything about the letter. I went back to my room and stood by the window. Outside, the wind was pulling the last of the leaves off the trees. The yard looked bare, almost forgotten. In the distance, I heard the school bus horn. Emma came out with headphones on, a thick coat wrapped around her small frame. She didn't turn back. I wanted to go to her, just to say something, fix her collar, hold her hand, anything. But I couldn't move. It felt like there was a chain between me and the door, soft, invisible, but heavy. I didn't speak, didn't tap on the glass. I just stood there, watching her blur into the bus window. That afternoon, I heard her upstairs, whispering in her room, a video call. "Where's your grandma?" a friend asked. "She's busy," Emma said, her voice unsure. The friend laughed. "She tells the best ghost stories, go get her." But Emma went quiet, then softly said, "She doesn't live here anymore." I didn't go in. I turned away. I knew she didn't mean it cruelly. She just learned to speak in the language Elise taught her, careful, quiet, precise. That night, I thought about going to her room, just to say, "I'm still here." But when I reached her door, the light slipped through the cracks. I saw her curled up on the bed, eyes swollen, hugging the small wooden box where I'd kept her grandfather's old letters. The lid was slightly open. I didn't knock. I just stood there, counted my breaths. Then Elise appeared, and without a word, she gently closed the door, a soft click, final. I went back to my room, laid on the bed, left the light on. I used to think the worst thing was being ignored. But now I know it's when people begin to erase you completely. Emma fell in love with a classmate. She told her parents. And the first thing they did was ground her, took her phone, cut off contact with me. The news didn't come with words. It came with absence. No footsteps on the stairs, no laughter, no one calling my name. Just the porch light glowing into the night, waiting for someone who never came outside. Then I saw it. The landline unplugged for the first time in 10 years. Heard the lock on the upstairs door. Derek changed the Wi-Fi password. Elise sent a single line in the family email. "We need to adjust the environment so Emma can focus on her studies. No contact, for now." For now. That soft phrase people use when they mean never again. I didn't call, didn't beg. I waited, but no one came. On the night of the Christmas Lights Festival, the street lit up like a painting. Music drifted in from the town square, and the smell of burning wood and cinnamon filled the air. But I stayed in the reading room, flipping through an old photo album. My hands shook, my eyes blurred. But one photo held me longer than the rest. I was 17, curly hair, a knee-length dress, standing by an ice cream truck at my old school. I was smiling, but not in my eyes. They looked just like Emma's, exactly like hers. Under my pillow, I found a torn scrap of paper, pencil written, no punctuation, shaky handwriting. If you still believe in me, don't let me end up like you. I didn't fold it, didn't hide it. I held it all night. The next morning, I went to Emma's school. Her teacher said she hadn't been in for a few days. Personal reasons. I asked, "Is she okay?" The teacher looked down, didn't answer. I stood outside the school for a long time. Red leaves covered the benches. It wasn't raining, but the air felt like a storm was near. Clara picked me up on the bus, an old friend, the only one I'd kept in touch with after retirement. We didn't talk at first. She didn't talk much during the drive. We were cruising along the coast, and this time of year, the fog sticks to the rocks like it's trying to hide something. At one point, she pulled over. She didn't even look at me, just stared out the window and said, "Evelyn, maybe it's time you saved yourself." That hit harder than I expected. I got home just before 5. The sky looked tired, fading like an old photo where the corners blur. The upstairs was quiet. I didn't go up. Instead, I walked straight to the reading room. The fireplace was still going, soft little cracks and pops breaking the silence. I knelt beside the cabinet and opened the bottom drawer. Inside was an old folder, worn, a bit greasy from fingerprints, the pages slightly curled from age. There were bank documents, forms, account transfers, retirement statements. I didn't check the balances. I looked at the signatures, mine, Derek's, and that note giving our son full control. I remembered when Derek said, "It's just to make taxes easier." I believed him. Back then, I believed family wouldn't misuse trust like that. I sat at the dining table with the file and a pair of scissors. I didn't cut to destroy, I cut to sort. I lined up the pages by date, like I was finally saying, "That's enough." I printed new forms, found lost accounts, changed passwords. I didn't know everything, but I watched tutorials, took notes, learned step by step. Then, I opened a new bank account, just in my name. No more sharing, no big announcement either. That night, I placed the stack of papers on the dining table. It wasn't a fight. It was just a quiet reminder. I'm still here. I made some tea and sat in silence. No TV, just thoughts. Emma came to mind, and that one pencil-scribbled line with no punctuation, "If you still believe in me, don't let me end up like you." I used to think I was helping my kids by staying quiet, stepping back, swallowing my feelings. But I've learned something. Silence can be its own kind of betrayal. The next morning, Elise passed the table and saw the folder. She didn't say anything, but her face changed. Not shocked, not confused, just calculating. I didn't react. I just went to my room and opened an old photo album. A picture of me at 17 had slipped out. I picked it up and stared at it for a while. No one stood next to me in that photo, and now no one does either. But this time, I didn't feel lonely. I felt real. I know I can't save Emma. If I keep fading into the background, I've already lost too much by disappearing. And now I know, if I don't step forward, Emma might disappear too, swallowed by the same silence that once swallowed me. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just set the folder beside a vase of wilting flowers no one had bothered to toss out. The kitchen was empty. Derek and Elise had taken Emma out early. "She's studying for exams," they said. I heard the upstairs door shut. No one came down. No one said good morning. No one noticed I'd already been up for over an hour. I made myself a cup of decaf, drank half, and left the rest on the table. I placed a pale blue folder there too. No lock. No string, no note. But inside was everything they'd need to see if they still planned to touch the money I once set aside for them. I had moved my retirement savings into a private system, cut off all their access, canceled every shared connection. I didn't hide it, but I didn't explain either. My signature at the bottom was still neat and steady, just like the one I signed the day I brought Derek home from the war. That was in winter too, cold just like today. Then I wrote Emma a letter. Thick ivory paper with a little snowflake pressed into the corner. I'd bought it last Christmas, but no one ever asked if I got any cards. I used a violet pen. The sentences were short. No advice, no rules. Just this: I'm not leaving you. I just don't want you to grow up carrying the same regrets I did. I folded the letter, slipped it into an unsealed envelope, and left it next to the photo album. My bag wasn't big. Just a gray wool coat, a photo of Derek wrapped in a handkerchief, a small ledger, 2 pairs of socks, a pouch of oat cookies, my ID, and a little cash. Not much, just enough to get somewhere where no one knows my name, and then I left. Snow had just started to fall as I stepped outside. A few flakes landed softly on the front steps, though the sidewalk was still dry, for now. I locked the front door behind me, but didn't bother taking the spare key. No one saw me leave. No one asked where I was going. And no one knew this would be the last time I'd walk through that door as someone who truly belonged in that house. Clara was waiting at the end of the street in her old car. She didn't wave, just lightly tapped the steering wheel when she saw me. There were no texts, no questions. Clara understood, like only old friends do. She didn't need to know the details, didn't ask about the past or the future. Just being there was enough. I got into the car, and the windows were already fogged from our breath. The engine hummed as we pulled away, slowly turning onto a quiet side road. I didn't look back, at least not right away. But when we paused, at the stop sign, I glanced into the rearview mirror. The house was still there, dark and still. No lights on, curtains closed. I didn't cry. The bus stop was next to the old ceramic shop. The sky hadn't fully brightened yet, but the shop's window gave off a soft, golden glow. The old man who ran it always opened by 5 in the morning. He had long gray hair, never remembered my name, but every time I came in he'd say, "People who drink tea don't need to rush." Once, I bought a chipped green teapot from him. I sat on the bench beside the bus stop. A cold wind slipped through the collar of my coat, but I didn't fix my scarf. I wanted to feel the cold. I needed to remember this moment, the one where I finally left. Clara sat beside me, not saying anything. One of her wool gloves had a thread coming loose. I saw her hand resting softly in her lap. After a while, she asked, "Still don't know where you're going?" She wasn't pressing, just gently filling the silence. I nodded. I don't need to know where. I just know I can't stay. The bus showed up 5 minutes late. A silver one, meant for long distances. Low steps, not many passengers. The driver gave me a nod as I handed him the ticket. I walked to the middle, found a window seat, and sat down. Clara didn't get on. She just reached out, gave my shoulder a small squeeze, then turned back toward the street we'd come from. I leaned my head against the window. No one was looking for me. No one was standing on the porch. No phone calls, no messages. I thought about the folder I left behind. I wondered if they'd opened it yet, if Elise had realized I'd taken back full control of everything. Maybe she thought it was just some quiet protest I'd undo later. Maybe she thought a few phone calls could reverse it. I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. I held my old bag close to me, not for the money, but because it carried the one thing that mattered. A sticky note Emma had written. When she was 9, it said, "Grandma is home. She's the place I can breathe." The first time I read it, I smiled. Now it hurt. The kind of hurt that lingers. Outside, the streetlights faded one by one, slipping behind us. Maine blurred into the distance, like a photo that never quite focused. I sat quietly, still unseen, still unnamed, just a woman moving forward with no one chasing after her. I didn't leave any Christmas cards behind. I stopped expecting anyone to send me one, too. When they came home, the house was still and quiet. No dinner on the stove, no napkins set on the table, and no mother waiting for them in the kitchen. I don't know if it was already dark by then. Maybe the snow had started to cover the steps. But in that house, the one I spent my whole life trying to keep warm and welcoming, nothing was ready. Just like so many nights before, dinner existed only in memory. I hadn't left a long letter, just one page, tucked inside the folder, a full revocation of access. A notice that all legal matters were now under private control, and one short line at the bottom, "I'm well. I just want to live for myself for once." They didn't call right away. Maybe at first they thought I'd just gone out for milk or bread. But when they opened the fridge and found it empty, no soup, no pie, no scent of anything home-cooked, that's when they felt it. That strange, sharp feeling. Absence. The same quiet I used to carry into that house every day. Now, it was the thing that unsettled them most. Derek called Clara 3 times. She didn't answer. Elise stood frozen in the kitchen, staring at my old wooden chair, the one I used to sit in, day after day, tea in hand, watching the garden. The same chair they once said to me, "You can always sit here, just stay quiet." But I'm done, sitting in silence. "Just sit there and don't distract Emma," Elise had said. I nodded, thinking that being allowed to sit was already something. This time, Elise didn't say anything sharp. No sighs, no complaints. Emma came down the stairs. With her music theory notebook in hand, she didn't ask, "Where's Grandma?" She didn't cry, didn't even look worried. She just whispered, like a soft breeze sneaking through a door, "Did she say anything to me?" No one answered. Now I'm in a quiet, little wooden house, tucked deep in a pine forest. Clara found it years ago, back when her husband was still alive. The man who owned it passed away, and now his nephew rents it out cheap. No lease, no questions, just peace. Clara brought me a few things, some whole grain bread, homemade jam, and a simple hand-drawn map of local bookstores. She didn't ask why I left. She just said, "If you want, I can leave you the spare key." I nodded. In my bag, I had a photo of my husband from his lighthouse days, and another one, just me and Emma, from a camping trip at a state park. My hair was wild, her shirt was stained with ice cream, and we were both laughing so hard our faces crinkled up like old paper. I taped that photo onto a card and wrote one line on the back, "If one day no one is stopping you, come find me." I sent it to Emma, only her, no explanations. Elise found the envelope first, probably noticed my handwriting, which was steadier this time. Derek opened the bigger letter. When he got to the last line, I could picture his hand freezing midair, then slamming the paper down on the table. He never really read my letters before, but now he had no choice. In it, I didn't scold or blame anyone. I just stated the facts. 1. Our bank accounts are no longer shared. 2. All legal matters are now handled by my own lawyer. 3. I'm not coming back. Elise exploded. "So that's it? She's just cutting us off?" Nobody said a word. Emma stood still, holding the card. She read the message on the back of the photo, then gently folded it and slipped it into her coat pocket. That night, no one cooked. Derek rummaged through the cupboards and grabbed a can of soup, but the gas had already been shut off. I'd done it that morning, like always. Turned the valve, wiped the burners. Same routine. Elise opened the fridge, just a bit of milk and a nearly empty container of apples. Cold air and silence. The house hadn't changed, but without me, it felt empty, hollow. They asked Clara where I was. She just shrugged and said, "She's gone to live." And it's true. I used to be the one sitting at the dinner table, waiting. Now I'm the only one here. But it's my table now. For the first time in years, I turned on the radio and didn't lower the volume out of fear. The music filled the room, not loud, not soft, just right. White Christmas, the old version. That voice, a little shaky in the chorus. Elise used to hate it. "That song's too old. Emma needs quiet." "To study," she'd say. I'd always turn it off without thinking, like flipping off a light before leaving a room. But today, I don't live in that house anymore. This kitchen is mine now. No more asking, no more permission. I made tea, cinnamon with honey. The scent drifted through the room, soft and sweet, like snow brushing against the windows. Outside, the sky was pale white, the pine trees blurred by a gentle fog. Inside, yellow lamplight and the soft crackle of the fire made everything feel warm and still. I hung a woolen stocking above the heater, an old one Emma had started knitting. Years ago and then forgotten. I washed it, let it dry on the windowsill, and folded the cuff neatly. Inside, I placed a few red-wrapped candies, the kind she once begged for at a Christmas market when she was small. I didn't wait for anything, just placed them there. I picked up a photo frame, a picture of us under the big oak tree that year, and set it beside a new frame, plain wood, no decorations. It's empty. If she ever comes, she can put the first letter in it herself. I turned on the heater. It made a clunk, then settled into a quiet hum. The wind howled outside, slipping, through the cracks of the door, but not enough to make me cold. I used to think being alone on Christmas was something to be afraid of. But now I've learned there's something even worse, being surrounded by people who don't really see you anymore. I didn't turn on the porch light, not because I was angry or wanted anyone to feel sorry for me. It was just that, for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anyone to come home. I reheated a slice of pie from the day before. The crust was a bit tougher, but the apple cinnamon smell was still sweet and comforting. I cut a small piece and put it on a cracked old plate. I didn't rush to eat it. I just left it there, across from my teacup, like I was still sharing dinner with someone. But this time, it was just me. I made one phone call. I didn't talk for long. I said, "I'm okay. Don't come looking for me. But if Emma ever needs me, the door is open." Then I hung up. No waiting for an answer. No needing anyone to agree with my choice anymore. Outside, the snow kept falling. I pulled the curtains closed and sat by the window, holding an old photo of myself when I was 17, braids in my hair, eyes steady and calm. Emma once asked me, "Grandma, did you ever do what you really wanted?" Back then, I just smiled. Now I know the answer. I didn't win any battles or get back what I lost. I simply chose to stop asking for permission, to live my own life. Slowly but surely, quietly, but for real. I used to think sacrifice meant love, but now I understand that if you don't learn to value yourself, even the people you love can turn away. For the first time in years, I didn't set a place at the table for anyone else. Just one cup, one slice of pie, and a silence that felt just right. Not because I was lonely, but because I no longer felt like I didn't matter. Some people spend their whole lives giving everything away, but forget one simple truth. If you don't learn to value yourself, even love can grow cold, like an old sweater that once kept the family warm during winter, but then got folded away and forgotten. Once, no one needs it anymore. If you've ever stayed quiet so you wouldn't bother anyone, or stepped back so someone else could have their chance, maybe today is the time to ask yourself, do I still have room for me in my own life? And if this story touches something in your heart, maybe share it with someone else who's also trying to find their own voice.